Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the theory of deck building, at least from my perspective. Currently, we'll talk about that in a second, but first and foremost, I wanted to drop in and show y'all how to import a deck. I've gotten a couple of comments about this and I haven't had time to address it, but if you come in here, look, I'll go straight to the main menu, you come into the collection, and then there's this little button right here at the bottom right of the screen, and you can actually just import the deck code. If you import the deck code, it should just make the deck, and then you can go into it. So just wanted to kind of catch up with y'all on that one. But let's go ahead and start talking about how to make a deck and like what you should be looking for. And here's the thing, I want to put this disclaimer out there. I'm not a veteran card game player. I've played a little bit of Hearthstone back in the day, did okay in that. It's pretty much it. Played a little bit of Magic the Gathering and a little bit of Marvel Snap. So I'm definitely not like a high tier card game player, but I'm definitely looking to improve. And I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about how I've been building decks and like what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and start a new deck. I'm going to kind of play around with decks that I'm familiar with or leaders that I'm familiar with. So let's do like, let's do a Wonder Woman Batman deck, right? Like, you know, Might and Tyranny, or Might and Tactics are super strong together, so like whatever. Now, here's an important thing that I've been looking at. This button right here, it's a little graph. It shows you the breakdown of cards so you can kind of see your resource curve. And like, what I mean by resource curve is like, if your deck is primarily silver and gold cards, you might struggle because one, your starting hand might not be very good, and two, you're gonna just like lose a lot of momentum and lose a lot of potential board control. So what I've been doing personally, and I don't know if y'all have noticed this lately, I play a lot of aggro decks, so I tend to have a lot of bronze cards. So I'm not going to actually build a deck here. That's not what we're going to do, but I'm going to throw a lot of cards in here, and you can kind of see like what that curve of cards would look like. And actually, I am kind of picking cards that I know I like just because they're good, but that's besides the point. That's neither here nor there. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of deck building, and I'll show y'all about what I like to look for. So, and this is just on the Might section. I have one more Might card I can throw in here. Let's go with a gold card just for the sake of, I think I like Swamp Thing, or I like yeah, we'll do a Swamp Thing. So look at the curve right now that we have. We have 15 bronze, 4 silvers, and 1 gold. So you can kind of see that it's going to be very early game centric that leads into the late game. Now, if I go to the tactics side, you know, you're going to want to kind of do something a little bit similar. So maybe I do Arkham Guard, Pennyworth, and then let me look at some silver cards. I'll come back to some of these other cards. Commissioner Gordon's really, really good. Green Arrow can be very good, for sure. And like I said, despite like building an actual deck, regardless of whether or not you play this deck, because I'm not really even putting a lot of thought into it, you can kind of see how I'm building the deck for that like more powerful curve, right? So, and maybe I'll put in, you know, a Cyborg and a couple Cyborgs and a Batman so we can hit some of these gold cards. So right now I got 6 cards remaining, and you can see that this kind of a deck is probably like pretty good early game, and then gets pretty mid-rangey with the silver resource, and then we'll have some gold cards, which again, you can only play 1 gold card a turn when you get to that gold resource anyways. So having too many gold cards is not going to be good unless you have something that will allow you to spend the gold cards. So like if you have, I think it's like 10th metal, allows you to spend that gold card. So in this deck, maybe I look for some more silvers, and I build something a little bit more, mid-rangey, right? And that's kind of the theory behind it. I don't, like I said, I'm not really building a deck, and I'll actually even show you some of my other decks to kind of give you a feeling of what I'm looking for. And then we'll round this out with like a couple more bronze cards. We'll do a Detective Chimp and maybe a couple Harvey Bullocks. So this is like pretty early game centric. Actually, might even be really heavy on the early game, just with some of the bronze cards that I have, and could actually even drop some of them. So maybe in this deck we drop the Cryptos and we go back to Might and we look for a couple silver cards. What do we want to look for? So 10th metal could be cool, something that could kind of get us one of our gold cards early, but I don't have a ton of gold cards, so let's see. What do we want to do in this deck? Maybe something for a little bit of draw, because we could always use super strength on Hot Girl potentially, otherwise she's just like a 4/4, so that could be a couple draws, whatever, right? So kind of a mid-rangey deck that I'm looking to build, and then cool, we'll just call this, you know, mid-range, and we'll you know, I'll probably just delete this deck later. But let me go ahead and show you some of the decks that I actually have been playing lately. One of my more favorite decks lately I've been messing around with is, I mean, y'all have seen me play the Anarchy Aggro, or like the, yeah, Anarchy Aggro deck quite a bit, and you can actually see the card breakdown right here for Anarchy Aggro. Actually, I don't know if that actually shows that, so we'll go into it just in case, because I'm not actually sure if it actually accurately shows that. So this one actually doesn't have the most bronze cards, and I actually have quite a bit of gold cards in this deck because of what the gold cards do. Reverse Flash is a really, really good finisher. Bizarro potentially brings that... Bizarro can potentially bring the leader to the front and I can finish him off. Bazooka's really, really good finisher. And I might even cut the Joker. I haven't really been sold on this card. But you can see this one is actually not as like super bronze early aggro as some of my other decks. So maybe not even the best example versus, let's say, I think I have the Inmates deck that I've been playing that's pretty aggro focused. Tyranny Inmates, which I think has a ton of bronze cards. So I can kind of show you that. So yeah, 23 bronze cards, but you can see you want to just split your spread depending on like what you're trying to do versus, let's say, like a control deck, which I haven't played in a bit, so I don't know if this is very good, but this like blue Batman Superman control deck is going to have a lot more cards toward the center and towards gold. So you can see I'm not super bronze heavy. I've got quite a good number of silvers and then a lot of gold cards. And I actually think that with the way that resource works in DC Dual Force, you know, you kind of need a good number of bronze cards. You have to have a good number of bronze cards because this is not like a typical like Hearthstone, like energy or Marvel Snap resource. I forget what it's called, where it's a number that you spend. It's a set resource. And while the resource can work like retroactively, can work backwards, like you can use a silver resource to use a bronze card. You're not actually able to drop a ton of cards all at once, and you have a pretty relatively small play field. So I think that in this game, you want probably, I mean, this is just a shot in the dark, no less than 15 bronze cards, and then from there, you kind of depends on what you're going for. So hopefully this is some kind of helpful thought process on how I've been building decks. I'm really just learning so much, and the meta of the game is really just developing based on the people that you run into and who's doing well with what decks. So a lot of me developing my decks right now is just, I make a deck, I take it into unranked, and I just play a ton of it and see if I can win more often than I lose. Some decks that I've made have been absolutely terrible, and other decks that I've made have had pretty good records with them. So friends, thank you so much for watching. Drop a like on the video and subscribe for future Dual Force content. I hope that this was helpful. Like I said, I'm not a veteran card gamer and I'm just learning as I go as well, but maybe y'all can learn with me. So thank you so much. Drop a comment on this video. As always, be sure to be kind of one another. Tell someone you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.